such as all light green tiles, all dark green tiles, all center tiles, and so on, blowing up. The process for making this attack was pretty rough. Basically, I wanted the system to be very customizable for new attacks, and the end result went through a few different previous versions. First, I already had these tiles on a tile map, so I started adding a transform to each tile manually, which was just really time consuming and probably pretty dumb. This probably would have worked in the end, but it wasn't the most user-friendly to set up attacks, and since there was no actual game object, the flashing effect I tried to make looked a little weird in my opinion. So I scrapped a few hours of work and rebuilt the system, this time with tile game objects that have a script in which I can select for which attacks that individual tile should be part of. Then I can just loop through these tiles in a boss script and have them shoot up fire. I also made sure to make a new tile flashing effect with DoTween, and with all this done, the tile attack system was done. As you can see, before the tiles flame up, they flash briefly for a few seconds, and then will damage the player if the player is standing on that tile. I really like this attack, and I can't forget to thank NateDev for help with some of the code. Alright, next up, I started working on a speaker's beam attack. The plan for this attack is for the speakers to stop shooting music notes, charge up for a bit, and finally let out a beam for a few seconds that will damage the player. Thankfully, yet again, Toast had already made some speaker animations, so I just worked on creating the beam for this attack. After I made the art, I set some things up, and now the beam speakers had a pretty cool beam attack. I also added this fade effect for this attack, which is a nice touch. The final main attack I made for this boss was the sound wave projectile for the stage speakers. I made it so that the sound wave kind of waves in and out, and I kind of like it. And I also made the speaker shoot 2 times when the DJ slime is in the second stage. 1 and 2 attacks for the DJ slime boss were done, and I wanted to move on to the third stage. The plan for this stage was for the DJ slime to leave his table and start playing a boombox in the middle of the dance floor. So I got to work. First I created a splash effect that plays when the third stage is triggered, and I got it so that the DJ slime moves to the center of the dance floor. I then created this boombox that spits out random music notes in random directions. I wasn't completely done with the final phase, but I wanted to create a way to stop other attacks from playing before I continued working. So I figured it would be best to create an attack manager system, because I still needed to do that anyways. So I started creating the system, but I soon kind of cut it short because I don't have any music for the boss to work with yet, which is a pretty important part of the boss's attacks. The thing is with this boss fight and the attacks in it, is that it's kind of tricky to plan out the ideas that I have in mind. I really want the music to line up with the boss fight's attacks, but boss fights aren't linear. You can't just have a song play throughout the boss fight and have the fight end when the song is over. That's just not how boss fights really work, at least in my game. So that's going to be difficult creating randomness in this boss fight, all while making the song still sound good, and I'm really going to have to think about how I approach the audio system. So that's why I'm going to hold off on this for now, so I can eventually work with a composer to sort things out. But just because I said that, please don't fill my DMs if you're a composer. I'm planning on searching for a composer when I get a better grasp on the game.
2000 milliards d'euros. La Banque Centrale Européenne a imprimé cette année 2000 milliards d'euros, comme tu peux le voir sur cet article. Et c'est quelque chose de très important. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il faut faire attention à la main qui donne. C'est vrai, ils ont donné beaucoup d'aide et autres, mais si elle reprend plus, et c'est là qu'il y a quelque chose d'intéressant. Pourquoi? Parce que le but d'une monnaie, c'est d'être rare, c'est vrai. Et si cette monnaie n'est plus...
Anyways, so yeah, that's all I got done for the DJ Slime boss for now, but thankfully, I think I made a lot of progress, so when I do decide to finish the boss, it shouldn't be too difficult. Well, that's all I've done for the past few weeks. I really hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. Also, let me know what you think of the changes I've made, and make sure to wish this slime keep if you haven't already. Finally, don't forget to check out Surfshark VPN, link in the description. Well, that's all I have to say, and I hope to see you guys in the next devlog. Bye.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Coding Adventures. When making planets in the past, I have always taken the approach of starting with a sphere, and then sampling a 3D noise function at each point, and stretching those points in or out based on that noise value. By mixing and layering different noise functions, and experimenting with different equations, you can get some pretty interesting results. But this approach has a limitation. Each point can only have one height associated with it, which of course means no caves or tunnels or overhangs of any kind. This is the approach I went with when I was tinkering with this little Outer Wilds inspired project, and while it's pleasant to take a stroll on a moon made from math, it's a little sad knowing there's no possibility of coming across a lava tube to explore, for example, or of digging your own little cave to take shelter in. So in this video, I want to try create a little planet and a terraforming tool, so I can make caves and tunnels and shape the terrain to my heart's content. As a starting point, I'm going to use an old project of mine where, after some difficulty, I managed to implement an algorithm called marching cubes. I have a whole video on that, but the basic idea goes like this. We take 8 points at the corners of some imaginary cube, and each of these points has a random value associated with it from our noise function. Values above 0 mean that those points are in open space. I like to think of them as air points, whereas when the value is below 0, those are rock points, because they're inside the planet. Between air and rock is where we want to draw the surface mesh of our planet. Now, with 8 points, there are 256 possible configurations, but there are actually only 15 unique cases, and the others are just various symmetries of those. And as you can see, these surfaces are all constructed out of triangles, because computers love drawing triangles. So to make our planet, we'll have a 3D grid of values classified as either air or rock, and we'll march through that space cube by cube, constructing the surface mesh for each one as we go along. This marching cubes algorithm was published all the way back in 1987 with the purpose of visualizing results from medical scans, but it's perfect for games as well. I'll show the code for this quickly for anyone who might be curious. So the bulk of it is actually just a giant table describing how to connect the triangles for each of those 256 configurations I mentioned. And I'm forever grateful I didn't have to figure these out myself, because there are a lot of numbers. The core of the algorithm, though, I wrote in something called HLSL, and that allows a lot of cubes to be processed in parallel on the GPU. Over here, we start by calculating the coordinates of the 8 corners of the current cube, and then here we look up each of their values and use that to determine which of the 256 configurations this cube is in. Then, from that giant table, we can find out which edges of the cube the surface is passing through. These edges are arranged in groups of 3, and we need to connect them up to form the triangles. So I have these two little arrays which just let us take an edge and look up the 2 points at either end of it. So we do that here for each of our 3 edges. Finally, we need to decide where along each edge we want to place the vertices, and for now I've just put them in the points. So let's make something with this. I've written this tiny script that
наоборот, достал всех уже просто, да? Ну, или как бы просто не в тему здесь вообще, да. Наоборот. Не говори-ка вообще так где-то как-то позорно все, что ли, как-то устаешь от этого, что ли? Ну нет, понял. Даже твоя тема была просто, да. Ну, обо мне ли ты говорил, это тебя где-то. сказать, что сумка не откроется, что ли, уже? Нет.
$50 by the way. So how old are you by the way?
Больше не выхожу. Рио, how are you? I'm fine. I'm normal. Hey. Hey. Huh. Wow, thank you. Gubaev. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Блин, ответственно тоже, чтобы... Ну, хоть засмейся.
It's all
Ну,
I
понятно,
can
ладно.
add something but
Ну, да,
alright.
Концертмейстер?
ну, это, я знаю, я так думаю, ты наоборот, как бы, вот это она есть. Ну, вырос.
You follow
Ладно.
someone is by the way.
Ну, вообще наоборот. Я наоборот.
Hey Green
А,
Eyes.
она взрослая, она большая уже. Чё, подожди, чё такое? Да, что-то я хотел. Подожди, я что-то хотел. Как бы это самое.
Support
So what's your,
Катюшу.
so what's your name like?
My
Katyusha.
Yes,
Katyusha.
I Катюша, yes.
Okay. myself, Rishabh.
Ну, Наруто, как бы нет, нормально. Ничего такого не нормально там все, да? Бросай так думаешь, да нет, он тебе так говорит.
It's my name.
Ну что, ну нет,
I tried.
It's my name, Rishabh.
каждый про свою путь. Наоборот, ну так чё ты, блин? Все тут.
You want? I understand you. Well,
Just living this Catholic.
I want you. Не простительно.
Может, здесь не в этом дело? А, нет, вот всё. Да. Ну, не хрена себе.
Guys, a last battle. And I
Windows
go.
DOS, блин. Иди нахер со своей фигней, блин.
Hey, macho.
Отвали.
How old are you, by the way?